As a teacher, I'm so many things to these students. I'm not just the person they spend a little bit of time with throughout their day. You have to make this experience personable, because if you don't, then you won't have their full attention.
Communication is key. Why? Because you have a relationship between you and this other person. And if communication breaks down, so does everything around you.
Everything isn't always about the lesson, because I understand, you know, some things happen with these young people, probably the night before or on their way to school, that they just need to get off their chest.
Communication is huge, and you need to vary the forms, because not every child is receptive to just hearing it or just seeing it or just reading it.
So let's roll with those today to help us build our essay. I started out wanting to be a newscaster. I refer to my students as an audience because, to a large degree, I'm a performer. I need reception from them. I need feedback from them. I need for them to treat me as if I were on stage delivering a play. They like what they see, then they should let me know. They should cheer. They should say, you know, I learned something from that. And if they don't, they should boo me, because that means that I didn't do what I need to do on that stage. I get up very early in the mornings. I think about my lessons all day long. I think about them the days before I unfold them. I think about them as I'm dressing, as I'm eating, as I'm driving, when I go to bed, when I get up. How dare I get here and waste their time? I never want to waste a young person's time, because I didn't appreciate the teachers who wasted my time, who were not prepared. And I always said I would be the opposite of that. The few teachers that I had that were really good teachers were so influential in my life. I wanted to be just like them.
Hi, Miss Bufford. How are you? I still see the same as Bufford from 5th grade. But you were so tall.
Yes, but you were little.
Yeah, I was.
You were 5th grade.
Come on in.
Tanya was a very good student.
Ruthie Bufford was my 5th grade teacher. I love her so much. She was the first teacher that I had that showed this honesty that I embraced so much. She loved us. She told us she loved us. Those were the words that came out of her mouth. I mean, what teacher does that?
She was going to go on and do something very, you know, something great.
When I got into teaching, I called Miss Bufford from that first teaching assignment, I'll never forget, and she almost started to cry.
I was surprised. I was very surprised. I looked at it as that she was probably not going to go into teaching, that she would probably be an engineer, maybe a doctor, but I did not think she would be a teacher.
What's the first one that Rayshard read? All right, so one of these thank you is going to be maintenance. And I said, no, it's all your fault. I'm here to stay. She just was so encouraging. You know, everything that I needed from her away from home, she was the person that said, I know what these young people need, and she listened to us.
But it just made me feel good that I had touched her life, that she wanted to become a teacher.
I think I'm a mini Bufford.
Every moment with her was a teachable moment, and that's the kind of teacher I've tried to be. You know, I don't just teach social studies. I mix in all the other core subjects too, because that's what Ms. Bufford did as well, and that's teaching to the whole student. And then it says, when you hear the phrase Millie, what comes to mind?
The students have to know that you care about them and that you want what's best for them. I try just not to be a teacher, but I try to teach them other things that they would need to help them get through life.
It was beyond the classroom. You didn't have to go into this other realm of education.
But that's part of being educated.
It is.
You're trying to build everything about that young person from the ground up in all areas while you have them and you have their attention. So sometimes I might go into an English lesson. You know, if we do a social studies piece, we'll do a writing with it too. That was the name of the song? And okay, so that comes to mind for you when you hear Millie. Okay, anybody got something different to say? I read a story where a teacher was having a difficult time teaching a lesson with her students. And so she just paused the lesson and told everyone to take out pen and paper and write something nice about someone in the class. And then they shared those letters. And it had such an impact on the students because it showed them what others thought of them, and that perception did a lot to boost their morale. And so then they were ready to start learning again. So I started writing letters to my students to do that same thing.
She was just a nice around person. You know, a lot of teachers, they say one thing and then they'll go do a different thing too, but she actually meant what she said. And her words spoke volume to me. You know, I took the words and I ran with them. She didn't give me anything negative. It was always a positive thing. Even if I was doing negative, she would turn it into a positive, make me say, you know what, you're right. You know, I should do this.
Derek Fawcett was a student who was in my 9th grade class when I first got here. And I wrote Derek one of these letters.
One day, I think it was maybe the last day of school, we was about to get off for summer break when you wrote it.
I remember that. It was the end of the school year. I wrote the class because I used to do that every year. I remember that.
We were in class, we did our work, and she started passing these letters. I'm like, what is it? She said, you know, I'm gonna write a letter to my students, and hopefully this letter would, you know, do something for you. And mine did.
So you got something in your hand?
Yeah, this is my letter. I told you, I have it. I look at it all the time. I kept it for, it's going on 10 years now. I folded it up and put it in my wallet. And it sat there for a few years. And then one day I was cleaning my wallet out again, and I ran across the letter. I'm like, you know what, I still got this letter. And that's when I started coming up here and visiting every so many years, you know. And when it was getting old and wrinkly, I started to laminate it. And you can see it was getting old. So,
it's getting worn.
That's why I had to laminate, because I didn't want to lose it, because it meant something to me. I didn't have a lot of people, you know, saying, do this, do that, do this. And for her to go out her way and take the time to write this letter to me, I felt it was personal, you know. She cared about, you know, students and how your future is gonna be versus just, okay, whatever, here you go. So that letter, it meant a lot to me for that. When I think things were going wrong, you know, I would look at the letter, I'm like, somebody believed in me enough to do something.
Do you really think that?
Yeah.
That's the greatest satisfaction. It really is. For them to come back, first of all, for them to think enough of me to want to come back, to even have a conversation with me. My whole relationship with them is just based on conversations. That's the way I teach my classes. I talk to them. I don't just give a handout and go sit down. And so when the students come back, I feel like I've done some service to them. And that's the ultimate payoff. It really is a great deal of satisfaction.
It's a lot of hope in that letter. It's a small letter, but it's a lot of hope. And, you know, I'm gonna continue to hold on to the letter for like years to come until it goes away on its own. I'm gonna have the letter. It's tons of hope in the letter.
Love you.
Love you too.
Great Teachers is brought to you by the United Way for Southeastern Michigan, with support from the Ford Foundation. More information is available at www.liveunitedsem.org.